Welcome, everybody. I'm Rob Coburn from Pennsylvania Mises Caucus. Thank you for attending. Obviously, we have Angela McArdle here tonight. She is currently the chair of Los Angeles County in California, and she will be, I don't know, have you already started, but running for chair next year in 22 for the Libertarian National Party. So thank you, Angela, for coming. I guess we can head into. Oh, before we get started, I want to let everybody know. Could you please just stay on mute? And we're gonna. Angela has a few things to talk about here, so we'll get to a point where we'll probably take some questions. But if you have something you want to say, raise a hand and I'll pick on you. But if you could stay muted till then, we make this go nice and easy.
All right.
With that, thank you, Angela.
Thank you, guys. So everyone here is basically getting a beta test of something that I've been working on for about 4 months. And it's a really dull looking black and white slideshow with me talking through it because it's not formatted for everyone to, I guess, take home and really work on. But you guys are the first. So, bear with me on the structure of it. The content is pretty much there though. So has anybody gone through the affiliate guide for Pennsylvania? You guys know you have a 58-page affiliate guide. I'm curious if anybody's gone through it. Okay, so this is not that. Although
I have.
You have, okay. This is not that, although there's a lot of good information in that thing, and there's some outdated information as well. It is sorely missing some really important stuff. And so is every other affiliate guide that I've looked through, and I've looked through about 20 of them so far, looked at as many state resources as possible. So let's see if I can actually move through this. So what does it mean to lay a proper foundation for your affiliate? We don't usually talk about laying a foundation. We usually just get going as fast as we possibly can. I think that laying a good foundation means you need to define your organization, you need to figure out what your purpose is, and you need to set some goals. We usually start with everything else, and we do this at the tail end, which is not such a great idea. So there's two primary things we want to accomplish when we start an affiliate, right? Like we want to decide what kind of organization we want to be, and we want to set goals that we can actually accomplish. And these two things, I think, work hand in hand. And as we kind of work through this, you might have to go back and forth and adjust your goals and decide, change your mind about what kind of organization you want to be. Change your mind about other stuff as you start to get a better picture of what you actually have around you and what is a good idea to accomplish. And that's totally normal. I think that these sort of things need to get workshopped, throughout the life of your organization. But generally, I'd say start at the very beginning, like conceptualize the truest form of liberty that you can, and then strive to achieve it. Like what would be your, realistic ideal for your local county affiliate? Do you, what do you actually want to accomplish? What would it look like to live in like a freer society? I recommend that that's something that you start with when you want to build an affiliate. What's the first thing that happens though when you decide to start a county affiliate? For me, it was people just dump a list of resources in my lap, and they didn't ever ask me like, why do you want to start an affiliate? Why do you want to run LA County? Why are you involved? What does any of it matter? Why are you doing this through political action? No one ever asks what the purpose of this is. Everyone thinks like, oh, it's the Libertarian Party. It's obviously to achieve liberty. But as we have seen over the past, couple of years, a lot of us have a wildly different idea of what that means. So I think we need to really drill down into what is the purpose of starting this affiliate, and ask our new members that, or our new county leaders that when they get started. And they should probably be the ones to answer that question. You can't really answer that question for anyone else. When you do that, everybody has different expectations, and the people who are doing the leading need to be on board with what they're doing. You've got to discover your purpose if you want to accomplish anything meaningful, right? Like your own conceptualization of what it looks like to live in a freer world. I think it's more than just a mental exercise. Like people need to actually write this down, because understanding it and mapping it out will help you with everything else that you want to do. What kind of organization do you want to be? What kind of assets do you need? What are you going to tell people when they ask why you're forming an affiliate? What kind of people do you want to attract to your organization? That's obviously been like an issue in some of our state parties. Like, what kind of people do you actually want to reach out to? I recommend you start with first principles. And I think that you need to be able to articulate this stuff as a leader of your organization, and you should probably be able to incorporate it into something like an elevator pitch. Why do your individual rights matter? Why is personal liberty worth fighting for? What's motivated you to take action within the Libertarian Party? We've certainly seen, we've had a couple of dissenters and haters who have, flipped agorist, and I'd like to think that we're all fighting on the same team ultimately, even though they may not view it that way. But I think that we should be prepared to answer why we want to pursue freedom through the lens of the Libertarian Party. So yeah, I think that's like go ahead and do it now if you want. Like, why should your personal liberty be secured? Why should your Libertarian affiliate exist? If there's anyone who's considering forming an affiliate, I think those are great questions for you to answer. And I think that you need to separate yourself from your organization. And this is something that new people, we don't even realize that we're doing it, right? When we start an affiliate, when you're like maybe you're the only person, or you're one of just a couple of people, you sort of become that affiliate. Like, it is you, and it sort of takes on your personality. And sometimes that's good, but sometimes it's not. And it'll depend on your personality. It'll, like, are you the perfect, like, libertarian personality? Or do you live and breathe libertarianism in such a palatable way that everybody in your district, your constituency, is going to like see you and want to vote libertarian? The answer is not always like yes, and that's totally okay. But sometimes we need to like separate ourselves from our organization. What kind of person you are is going to have an impact on the kind of organization you create. Your personalities, your interests, your likes and dislikes, everything about you, how you come across in your messaging is going to sort of give a vibe to your organization. Like, those of us who are first starting out and who are really passionate about gun rights, you're probably going to be doing 2A things. If you're really passionate about medical freedom, you're probably going to want to focus on that because it's what you're familiar with. And the same goes for your personality. Like, a lot of us are, shit posting edgelords. That's not necessarily the best messaging that you want to put forward. Or maybe it is, but you need to sort of figure that out. And so I recommend that you try to distinguish yourself from the party. And this will definitely help you later on down the road if you feel like, oh, this isn't actually working and I need to course correct. Something that the Libertarian Party has, in my opinion, failed miserably at nationwide is branding. And most people don't even seem to understand what that is. Hotep Jesus actually did a really good talk about this in California. He talked about how branding is your reputation plus consistency. So when you think about libertarian activism and what you want to do, can you picture what it would look and feel like? It's like branding is like the personality of your affiliate. And so you have your own personality, your own brand, and then you have your affiliate's personality. And I highly recommend that everyone go and just take a branding personality quiz online. Do it once for yourself, and then do it again for your organization. And then you want to relate this back. So when you're done with it, and it'll give you all these different interesting options, it's like branding archetypes is what they're usually called. And a lot of it's from Jungian psychology, and some of it'll come across and seem maybe familiar to people who are interested in Jordan Peterson. Some of it's going to be really familiar to anyone who's done marketing, demographic studies, advertising. You'll all know what it is. But the rest of us need to sort of up our game a little bit. Once you kind of get the vibe of your brand, like, oh, my brand is like the rebel. My brand is like the principled, like, authority figure on a certain topic. Like, there's all different vibes. Like, oh, my brand is like friendlier. Like, I'm like your buddy who's helping you along on your libertarian journey. This will help you sort of craft your message. You can also find your target audience, because certain branding styles are going to be a little bit more off-putting to other people. You want to hone that in and figure out who you want to attract. And then you want to just kind of design everything around that brand and incorporate it into everything so that you seem consistent and not like a schizophrenic weirdo in your messaging. That is a problem that a lot of organizations have. It's a problem that we struggle with in California. Everybody has like a different idea of what should go on social media, for example. So we have like a lot of low grade, like shit posting memes, but then we have like more serious professional stuff. Trying to get all of that so that it's much more consistent, so that voters aren't like, what the hell is up with the Libertarian Party? They are all over the place. You really want people to know what to expect from you. And in order to get this down, like really down so that everybody else can understand, you should describe it. Like, don't just spend 30 seconds on it. Take a good chunk of time to really digest this. What is your affiliate's mission? What are the benefits and like features of your organization? What do people already think of you? What qualities do you want people to think of? Like, what would you prefer they think of you? What do you want people to automatically associate with you? The Mises Caucus, for example, has like pretty consistent branding, but the Libertarian Party at whole does not. So can we refine that? Can we hone it in? Remember, your brand is the personality of your affiliate, and it should complement your purpose. So if you're saying, I want to win local elections, I want to have this very serious attitude, there's these very calculated goals I want to make, then, like a shit posting edgelord, that's not going to be in alignment with your goals very much. If you really want to focus on legislative stuff, if you want to have like kind of like an authoritative, like serious professional tone, you need to think about, does that line up with your goals? If you want to be really focused on 2A, you may want to take a different branding tone, stuff like that. Yeah, take the time, decide, write it down. What are the key messages you want to communicate about your organization? Like, do you want to be bold? Do you want to be principled? Do you want to be more empathetic and show that like you really do care about people? Do you want to make sure you're upholding individual rights in all of your messaging? Make that really consistent and clear. And every officer, director, and volunteer who is in charge of your messaging should be aware of this. And I think it's really important to start this from the beginning, because when you get into an organization that's already been established for many years, like LA County or, like California, it takes time to get everyone on board. Like, it's taken me 2 years to clean up LA County's, all of its other problems. And now I'm finally here, and it's taking some time to work on this. So be prepared. If you've already got your affiliate started, it's going to take some time. And if you're new, jump on all of this early. It'll make your job much easier. And then you want to integrate it, right? Like, it's not just social media, it's your website, it's your t-shirt and your stickers. It's what your members say when they're representing the party. It's your email signature. It's how you talk. It's everything. You want to create like a voice, basically, for your company that reflects your brand. Bernie Sanders, I don't like him, whatever, but he has really consistent branding. Like, I know exactly what to expect from Bernie Sanders. He's going to lose elections, and he has a cute little blue bird that tweets, images, and he says certain things about corporations. He's got the same color scheme, and he's a traitor to the American people, I guess, and has, horrible ideas about economics. Vermin Supreme, same. His branding is really consistent. Like, his social media, his website, the things that he says in person, you know exactly what to expect from Vermin. The Mises Caucus, really consistent branding. Same color scheme, right? Same everything. So that's some more on branding. And I think you should develop a tagline. Tagline, all of your freedoms all the time. I actually like that one. That's a consistent LP tagline that I think is really good. Take human action. Like, we know exactly what to expect. Like, whenever I see that, I think immediately Mises Caucus. And all of this stuff should relate back to your statement of principles, your mission statement, your vision statement, which are all things that you should really have to help you figure out what the heck you want to do with your organization. Everything should be consistent. Like, you definitely don't want bylaws and a statement of principle that seem like in opposition to the rest of your branding. Design, you all know the drill, right? Christian Malazarte, don't go making horrible flyers like I do that will ruin your branding. That is not good. Although it is a fun way to get attention, but don't actually put them on your website. And be consistent. So this is not just like in images, right? But it's in your principles, it's in your messaging, it's in the stances that your organization takes. Like you want to be really consistent. If you're going to be, you know, a libertarian, you should probably be really principled. You should oppose vaccine passports. You should oppose lockdowns. You know, you should oppose gun control, and don't come across as squishy or wishy-washy on one issue and really strong on the others. That will make people not trust you, and you want people to trust you. All right, so let's jump into the next role, which is working on your statement of principles and your mission statement. Most county affiliates are going to copy paste whatever their state party has, and usually that's fine, but not all county affiliates do that. Sometimes county affiliates have a different purpose listed. Like LA County's bylaws said that the purpose of the Libertarian Party of Los Angeles County was to support candidates or win elections. And we changed that a little bit to also put out and support libertarian ideas. You might want to fidget with it. You might want to adjust something like that a little bit if you're just getting started and you're in like an incredibly blue district or somewhere that has very difficult election law, so that you can actually focus on, you know, maybe trying to get some legislation passed or doing something else, and you don't feel like, oh, everything I've been working on in the past year is technically not supported by my bylaws or my mission statement. So take those things into consideration when you're first getting started, so you don't hit some speed bump down the road. And make sure that you put that stuff at the very beginning of your bylaws. I think a mission statement is really important. You want to explain what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you want it to be something that is pretty easy to communicate to everyone else. When people look it up, they know exactly what you're doing. We don't have enough emphasis on mission statements and vision within the LP. And I think that that will really solve a lot of problems down the road if we can just get it right in the beginning. Here's some highlights on how to do a good or a bad mission statement. Don't sound like Dilbert. Don't use a bunch of really complicated words from Man, Economy, and State. That doesn't jive. People don't know what the hell you're talking about. Don't be long and have like a paragraph long sentence. That can be a little bit too much too. You want it to be something that people can actually understand. And if you were actually working through a workbook, I would say write your mission statement down right now. But what about philosophy and vision? I like to think about this as, what kind of values does your affiliate want? Do we want honesty, integrity, principles, boldness, compassion, trailblazing? Those are all potential values. Your vision is tied closely to your goals. Vision sort of refers to like your long-term outlook for your affiliate or your county, what ultimately you want it to become. What do you envision your community looking like in 5 or 10 years down the road? Like, it's, what are you working for? What are you fighting for? You want to iron out your vision and have it kind of tied to your goals and your values, and all of that sort of stuff makes up your philosophy. And then you want to think about, what do you want to accomplish? Like, before you set really concrete goals, you know, think about that vision a little bit and think like, what do you want? What do you want to see? You know, like, I want to make the world a freer place to live. So how would I do that? And what would that look like? I think specifying long and short-term goals is really good. It's something that we actually haven't had in California at the state party level, not even a little bit. So like LA County, I was like, I want to get my membership goals. I want my membership retention rate to be at least 80%, because it was historically very low when I inherited the party. That's an easy goal to set, right? Like, you could figure out. And then sometimes you need to adjust your goals. You know, like, you'll set a goal and then you're like, holy crap, I didn't realize how hard this would be. And you can adjust it. But always make sure your goals are measurable and try to make them attainable. Don't ever set a goal that you can't measure, because then you're never going to achieve it, and that is demoralizing. And get to know your constituency. Knowing your members and the people in your county will help you figure all of this stuff out, your messaging, your goals, everything. You don't want to be completely out of touch with the people around you. And part of that is getting to know your market demographic. So this is really important too when you want to do candidate support. Like, who are you reaching out to? Who do you want to get to join the party? Which voters are you trying to reach? Are you aware that there are even different demographics around you? And sometimes, you know, your market demographic may change a little bit by what's going on in your county. But definitely decide who you're messaging to and doing outreach to. Decide like who you want your new members to be. And it may take you a little bit of time to figure this out, and that's okay. It's better to put in the work beforehand. It really is. And maybe you want to describe the political landscape too. You want to see like, what is the environment that you're operating in? Like, there's literal communist marches in LA County where I live. There's like communists that march in the streets. So trying to do outreach to them is really tough. But there are people who are like, ooh, communism, you know, I focus my outreach on them. How will you take advantage of projected changes and trends? You know, like lockdowns, for example. Like, I had to do a pivot to focusing on people who opposed lockdowns. It lost me some support from kind of Beltway milquetoast people who just want to go along to get along. Okay, you know, like I had to make a calculated decision on that and stand by my principles. And then, you know, like, for example, the GOP didn't speak out strongly against lockdowns in LA County. So I won a few of them over. There's all different sort of ways to plot that, but it's good to know the political landscape around you so that you have an idea of what could happen to you. And then you want to be able to describe what you're basically selling, because we're trying to sell people on this. And we actually do have some really good salespeople in the LP, and they should definitely do some courses on that for us. But you want to refer back to your vision and your mission statement. Like, what are you selling and how will your organization create that? Like, what, you know, like, this is how we're going to achieve a freedom, or even some small incremental little bit of freedom. It's basically what we're trying to do is solve a pain point. Every organization has to like solve someone's problem. Okay, so you're a small business owner and you're constrained by regulation and it's miserable and you can't get off the ground. We want to lessen the regulatory burden on you so that you can be in business, that sort of stuff. And we can do it because XYZ. Republicans are going to sell you out. Democrats absolutely like hate your freedoms and they don't care about helping you at all. That sort of thing. And then you also want to, like, once you explain that, it's like you want to be able to explain, then this is how you can join, or this is how you can get involved. And you want to describe that join process. One of the challenges that people have raised in California is that it's difficult to get connected in the party. So you want to make sure that you make it easy for people joining your county affiliate to actually get involved and not just email this person, I emailed that person, I didn't hear back, someone said this, someone said that. So make sure that that process is streamlined. And if I had everyone doing a worksheet, I would have you briefly describe your affiliate and what you do and how, because that is an important thing to do. As you go through some of this stuff, you want to just constantly readjust, because you're going to have to do that as you figure out like, oh, I missed that, or oh, I forgot about this. Totally normal. More on the pain point. Another thing that we need to work on is describing what sets us apart. How are we different than Republicans and Democrats and the Green Party? We always leave them out. We like to think that the Green Party is irrelevant, and they mostly are, but sometimes when people are seeking the truth and they know that something's wrong with the two parties, you know, they end up looking into the Green Party too, and we don't want to lose people to that. And then how do we join? I think I covered that. So after you've developed your brand, your vision, and your mission statement, you have to dig into the assets of your inventory. And we don't always think about like, what do we have? So like, if you have skills, and almost everyone here does, that's an asset. What skills other people have, like your strengths and your weaknesses, the stuff that you get handed down by the party, all of this will affect how you're able to deal with like setting goals and achieving those goals. And people are absolutely the most important asset. You should take stock of the people around you, describe their personalities, their skill sets, how much time do they have to devote to the cause, how enthusiastic are they, other attributes, do they get along well with people? Are you a people person? Are they leaders, hard workers, recalcitrant skeptics or contrarians who are going to create problems for you when you interact with them all the time? These are really important things to find out as early as possible. And I have a good litmus test for some of it. If you can't get a clear idea of someone's skill set by talking to them, ask if they've taken the Myers-Briggs test, and if so, what their results were. Some people will tell you, and some people will scream because they don't like the Myers-Briggs test. If they give you a whole bunch of grief for asking them that, they might be difficult to work with. So just keep that in mind. But it's a good way to test someone's skill set or how they'll be able to work with you in the future if they do take that test, if you've just got absolutely nothing. And you want to match people to their skill sets. So this has been a real pain point, something that I went through in California when I first joined not when I first joined, I guess when I first got really active in the state party. Someone was like, oh, you should run for secretary. We really need a secretary. We know you're a paralegal, so you'll be great at this. But the reality is, like, I hated it. It doesn't play to my strengths. Just because I can do technical work, I don't always like to. It was miserable. I'm more of an outgoing person, and being secretary just like really sucked for me. I didn't want to be stuck at the laptop doing technical work all day. So make sure that you're matching people to their strengths. And don't put an extremely shy technical person into a role where they're going to have to constantly socialize and talk to new people and then not get to use their skills. That sucks. And it usually makes institutional memory difficult too, because those people, once they get out of their role, they're done with it and they don't want to train the other person and they don't want to spend a lot of time on it. So be forward thinking on that. Resources and logistics. Before you really get going, you should probably list out everything that you have. Do you have CRM? Do you know what that is? Do you have access to voter registration data, sample bylaws, a website, any of that stuff? Usually a lot of this stuff is provided by the state party, but it isn't always, and especially depends on your state party. So you want to figure out what you have and what you don't have. And you may not know what you don't have until you start listing what you have and going through some of the other more traditional candidate guides. And then you see, oh, I don't have that. I don't have that. I don't have that. Do you have a graphic designer? Do you have a logo? Do you have someone who can copyright? Some of the writing that we see on state party websites is notoriously awful. You want to fix that up. Do you have someone who's willing to be a treasurer if you're just getting started? Treasurer is really difficult. Usually there's personal liability involved. So finding a treasurer can be rough. So yeah, you want to make a list of all of this stuff. And then we never do this. Never do this. It's so important. You want to do a SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Candidates usually do this if they've got a decent campaign manager or campaign assistant. Affiliates should do this, right? Because you want to know, like, what can you actually accomplish? So what are the opportunities? What are the threats? Is someone threatening to take away your ability to run your organization? Like what that bill that got floated by in Iowa, and what was the other? Was it Illinois? Where Indiana? Like, you want to be aware of that sort of stuff. Yeah, really important. Here's a sample chart of what it looks like, but you can Google this and find one that works for you. List everything out: opportunities, threats, strengths. Your assets you just list as your strengths. Things that you don't have, list as your weaknesses. Start there and then just start filling the rest of it out, and make everything in alignment with your organization's stated purpose. And then obviously the demographics of your area are important, and that will also play into what you put in your SWOT analysis. You want to go back and review everything that you've written down about your affiliate, and then you want to adjust your SWOT. And you're probably going to want to adjust your goals as you see, oh, I'm missing this, I'm missing that. Oh, I do have this, I can do that. You want to constantly adjust everything in the beginning, and then put it into a plan format. So you know your goals, you know what resources you have, you get your strengths and weaknesses figured out, And then you are left with what you need to work on in order to accomplish your goals. There are some really good executive summary formats out there, and I recommend that the Libertarian Party start adopting these sort of things so that you can get a more concise action plan for the rest of your affiliates' year. So, part 3, what kind of culture do you want to foster? When I look back at the last year, I think, okay, the California Party had a really positive convention. Colorado's was pretty positive, a little bit of drama from 1 or 2 people, but pretty good. And then I think about Pennsylvania, and I think about the image of the guy with all of the ribbons that said Cathedral Caucus, blue pilled, all of that. And then, well, I'll give it to him for branding. Like, that image is going to stick in my mind, for the rest of my life. But like, that is not the kind of culture that I want to foster. Judicial committee chairs screaming obscenities at people who are excited and new to join the party. Like, that is gross behavior. And one thing that we tend to shy away from as libertarians is like trying to have some sort of code of conduct. And I don't think that a code of conduct should be incorporated into bylaws. It shouldn't be weaponized as a measuring stick for disciplinary actions, but it might be nice to have something written down about how we're supposed to treat each other as we're trying to all work to achieve liberty in our lifetimes. So I like the idea of a code of conduct of in some way, guidelines on how to treat each other, principles of, interpersonal communication, whatever you want to call it. Some of the other smaller third parties do have things like this. And usually they're rife with all kinds of like cringy collectivist statements, but we don't actually have to do that. So here's like some templates. At the LP, we look to create a culture of individualism, respect, and healthy collaboration. We embrace the non-aggression principle and aim to foster an environment that values freedom while uplifting people. With these principles and goals in mind, we commit ourselves to the following community guidelines, something like this. And this is, I pulled part of this from the Movement for a People's Party, but there are similar things throughout, like different organizations. We embrace respectful disagreement as a path towards understanding and resolution. If we challenge the behavior of another member, we try not to call out, but we try to call in. A thing that I think is really important is to emphasize that we'd prefer not to call the cops on people. We'd prefer, not to make, like threats that are going to be construed as, hey, I'm going to literally kick your ass, like violence, that kind of stuff. Does it mean like that it's going to cover every situation? No, there are going to be situations that arise where it gets out of control or whatever, but we're just trying to stay on course with, decent behavior. I think that, when you have a judicial committee chair screaming obscenities at someone, it would be cool to be able to point back to something like this and be like, bro, can you check yourself a little bit? Can we take this down a level? So that's what I've got for you guys. It was a lot of information that I blew through really rapidly, even though it took 35 minutes, but I would love to answer some questions.
Thank you, Angela. So from here on, guys, if you have a question, put up your raise hand button and I will call on you. If everybody could please stay muted until I call on you, we can try and get through here because Angela's time is quite valuable and we want to make the best of it here. I actually had a couple of questions for you with some of the stuff that you touched upon. One of the guys we have out here in Allegheny County with me, he brought up something recently, that we want to prepare the parties for success, really before we're running candidates or things like that, because we don't want to be putting people, directing them towards a party that is disorganized and really attract, turning off people who are action oriented, because they come into a disorganized party and they'll just be turned off if you don't have your things together. So how do you go about taking an affiliate that is not very productive and help it turn to something that is a usable tool for doing this?
Yeah, well, I would suggest going through this stuff to try to repair, what you can. But I find that a Pareto distribution principle of attention to your activists is a good way to get things going. So you're going to have, if you're in not a hostile, but a little bit dysfunctional affiliate, which is what LA has been for part of the time, you want to focus all of your attention on like the 20% of people who are fired up and passionate and ready to do work. And you don't want to be unkind to everyone else. But if there are people who participate like kind of borderline and they don't do a lot, it's okay. Just let them be. Focus almost all of your attention on the handful of people who are enthusiastic. Lavish praise on them. Make sure they know you're paying attention and that they're doing a good job, and give them as many projects as they can reasonably handle. They will start to make waves, and eventually the other people around them will see that, and they will see a really positive feedback loop that new people who are excited do something. Chair or whoever of the party pays a lot of attention to them and says they do a great job, and there seems to be excitement generating. And then other people will start to gradually adopt the same behavior, and you will start to grow that base. Another great way to deal with this problem is to grow your membership and bring in new people who are interested, and insulate them from any drama or stagnation in the rest of the group. Like, just don't even, it sounds like kind of cliquish, I guess, but I don't even introduce them into people that are rude or who are habitual ball droppers, which is another problem we have. And I don't think that people who are habitual ball droppers necessarily intend to damage your organization. Often they're burned out, or they mean well, but they just don't have the time. But the same
Well,
applies, like
unless you've got them in at a chair level or something like that in the county,
right,
which we have a few of those here. But
yeah.
Very good. Well, along that line, I had another question for you. How would you go about incorporating people who have been brought in through the caucus here? Because we do a lot of onboarding here, especially in Pennsylvania. Who, if we're bringing somebody into a Mises hostile area, and you don't want to turn off the new people, but you also want to bring them in and incorporate them. And do you have any suggestions for going about that?
Yeah, I think that activism usually needs to be insulated and kept within the caucus, but have them attending county meetings until you've got at least 3 or 4 caucus members who can sort of band together and develop like a positive culture within the party. That's what we've done in a couple of counties in California. So I tell them, like, they'll attend their county meeting and they're like, it sucks. Everyone's wearing a mask, or they didn't do anything. It's low energy. And so I'm like, okay, well, if you want to take a break from going to the county meetings, that's fine. I recommend you get involved at the state level instead. Reach out to this committee, or you can get involved in another county, try to help them, help a candidate. But why don't we regroup in a couple months after I see if I can find more people to participate in the county? So that's what we're doing in a few. And it seems to work well. Like, you want to make sure people stay engaged, right? So that they don't just drop off.
I would like to add to that, Rob.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I would just encourage them to, in a sense, put the Mises Caucus stuff on a shelf, especially if they're new, and really focus more on learning the ropes, learning and forming relationships. And that way, if it's a legitimately Mises hostile place and they go in there guns blazing, I'm with the Mises Caucus, then people aren't even going to judge that person on the merits of who they are or how they act. So you don't want to give them that opportunity if that really is the case. So if they go in there as just another member, and for all intents and purposes they are, that way people form relationships with them on the basis of who they are and what they're willing to do and what they're trying to do in the party and all that good stuff. So that by the time they ever say, oh yeah, I came in through the Mises Caucus, now they're going to have to deal with some cognitive dissonance to judge them in light of who they think they are versus what they're hostile to. You know what I mean? So just wanted to add that.
Like, you must have played a lot of Risk or something as a kid, because you've always got the strategic answers down. But I appreciate that. If anybody else has any questions, put your raise hand up, and I will call on you. Until then, I can got a few more I can keep asking for you, but does it? Oh, here we go. Christian Varney, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. So I guess my question is kind of along the lines of, we have kind of like a regional chair system in Kentucky. And so a lot of my goals, so I'm one of the regional chairs. And so a lot of my goals have been just trying to get something like county parties and whatnot set up for to actually to direct people to. And so we have a lot of smaller counties that don't really have any active members. And so I was just kind of like, that's very different from like LA or like what some of you guys deal with in Pennsylvania. And, you have a lot of members and there's actually like a base to pull from. And so I guess my question is, when your pool is super small, what is like the best way to like effectively, direct them to like something productive to be doing? That might not make sense, but
No, that makes sense. So your pool is super small, so you want to direct people to something productive to be doing. So you want, like maybe you have in California, we call it a chair pro tem. So there's like one person active in the county. Does that sound about right?
yeah.
Well, I would ask them what they want to do. I think that's really important because obviously you want to get that county affiliate started. But if the reality is that it's going to take like maybe a year to find enough people and they're struggling, that you may want to find like, what do they care about? Like, is there a particular issue? Is there something that's going to pique people's interest that people can rally around? Because like if there's like some rule that's hurting small businesses or horse owners or whatever it is, that may be a good way to pivot and build the organization. I think it'll depend on each county, and it'll also depend a little bit on the personality of the person who's trying to organize and see what their interests are as well. I think everything should be individualized.
Yeah, along that line, I got a question for you. So here in Pennsylvania, I don't know if it's the same elsewhere. We just as our state party does, the counties have the ability of non-county members to come in and be voting members and things like that. Do you see any issue with hooking somebody up, maybe who's like the one person in their county with cross county affiliation and get them plugged in at that type of activity?
As long as the bylaws allow for it, I think it's a great idea because like there's several counties in California where there's just one or two registered libertarians. And why do we want to just like shut them out and make them bored? And sometimes affiliate building is too much work to dump on one person. If someone's like really busy with work and family, but they want to contribute maybe 3 or 4 hours a month, just plug them in somewhere else. And then if you keep trying to grow that county through other ways, and it depends on how the state party is set up, then you may be able to regroup in 6 months once you find them 3 or 4 more people.
Very good. Morgan Mogus, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks, Angela, for coming and doing this. So my question is, and I'm sure this might be a no-brainer question, but what methods of recruitment would you recommend for bringing in new people or those who are registered libertarian but not in the party that isn't just memeing on social media?
I think attending, so then you get into like the nuts and bolts of like what are the hot button issues in that county or in that part of the country. I think appealing to the Chamber of Commerce is a good way to start. If you're just completely starting from scratch, you want to get out and meet people in the community. If there's a gun rights activist group, that might be a good place, like Gun Owners of America, monthly meetings, things like that, anything that's libertarian leaning. You might want to go and poach off of those groups and recruit people. Because yeah, it's hard to get anything done when you're just relying on like shit posting and it's a small area where there's no one established. What else? Hosting events. If you can table at an event, that sometimes really works out. It'll depend on your community and the demographics of the people that want to attend events. But if you could table at something, like, and just have a libertarian booth where you're getting people's information and meeting them, that's another good way to do it. And we do it in LA, and like, sure, LA is mostly blue, but there are obviously enough libertarians and people who come by the booth that we do develop. We build like a decent email list off of that.
All right, Adam G.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for doing this. All right, I'll definitely second. Events are a great way to get people. We do a good bit of, we're doing a good bit of events here in Lancaster, and it's been great. One of the things that we've talked about is Facebook ads, or generally speaking, digital marketing. Do you have any thoughts or considerations about that?
I think digital marketing is great. I think things are getting a little weird now with social media censorship. So I would say that if you have someone who's skilled at digital marketing, to go for that it can be challenging if you're completely green and you don't know what the heck you're doing. So I think if you actually know how to do it, or you can get someone else who can help you, then go for it.
Mhm.
But like boosting posts on Facebook, sometimes you're just throwing your money away. Like if you don't have the demographic like tailored, and that stuff can get really technical. Like you can tailor it like really carefully.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Kareem.
Hey, Angela, it's finally nice to meet you. You're actually how I found out about the Mises Caucus. So, that's really cool. So I just had a couple of really quick questions. I was recently at our convention, and as far as I'm concerned, there's different ideas in libertarianism, voluntarism, minarchism, classical liberals, and a bunch of different things in between. I still see that there's some problems between the Mises Caucus and the LP National and other caucuses. As far as I'm concerned, we're too small to be having conflict right now like this. Fine, Republicans are fighting and Democrats, but my question is, people have had pushback saying it's not possible. Some people have said it's a good idea. Is it worth it to try and bridge the gaps and say, hey, I don't know exactly what the system's going to look like, but if we can work together and figure out how to get rid of the authoritarians, then we can sit down with LP National, Mises Caucus, and say, okay, who's going to pay for schools, roads, bridges, all that fun stuff? What's your thoughts on that?
So is it worth it to try to bridge the gaps between the different caucuses?
Yeah, kind of create more unity so we can at least get some goals accomplished, at least.
Yes.
And
I think it is.
okay.
I think that it's worth it to try to bridge the gap with the people who are willing to bridge the gap. And I would treat that the same way that I mentioned, like with the Pareto distribution. I would only bother working it out with people who are interested in working it out. And I would not waste my time going after people who are like screaming, foaming at the mouth, calling people Nazis and that kind of crap. If you focus on the people who are open to working things out with you, and you sway them even just a little bit, to keep working on that, just like gradually, don't stress yourself out over it. Eventually the loudest dissenters are going to look irrelevant, and they're gonna look like jackasses to their own friends. So just let them keep acting like psychopaths, and everybody else just keep kind of focusing on, oh, let's work together, let's do this thing, And I think that most people are likely to sort of like fall in line with the real mission, which is obviously to make this world a freer place to live.
Along that line, when we were preparing for the convention here, as people started to get more, hostile and more dramatic in the things that they were saying, it was driving more and more people to the Mises Caucus. It really increased our membership right before the convention. As they continued to mudsling, the worse they got, the more people gave us a chance and looked at what we were doing, because it was so obvious about they were being disingenuous.
Exactly.
And then a bunch more after the convention when they revealed themselves.
Yeah,
I think along those lines, it's one of those things where just don't play their game. And as long as you conduct yourself in a manner that is, becoming of some of admiration, you're going to come out of it just fine. And you don't need it to really, if you don't engage and just conduct yourself how you should, let them mudsling, and it actually works out better for you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I guess I can throw one last one. I'm just curious about this. I was on Clubhouse, finally actually found out because everybody said I had to get it. And I'm like, okay, let's check out this audio platform. I listened to about 2 hours of Dave Smith and Amash talking because those are my two favorite libertarians. And as far as I'm concerned, I think they would both make great candidates. And I'm really, really thinking that if you take Amash's experience of running just campaigns, and you take Dave Smith's messaging, we can actually get something done on the federal level and actually win in 2024. Because I think the problem with JoJo is that whole kind of tweet about BLM didn't go so well. If we just stick to the good messaging and we have some experience, do you think we can have a victory in 2024, or is it too
I just heard Spike's heartbreak right now, just so that everyone knows. I heard it. We're one now. We're like best friends. I just heard it. Just kidding.
I don't think we're going to win the presidential election in 2024, but I think that if we play our cards right, we're going to grow the party and grassroots support like tremendously. And I am going to continue to be really cordial to Amash. He's not my first choice. I don't hate his guts though. And I think the more that he is kind of politely forced to talk with Dave Smith and address us, he's going to continue to improve as a candidate too. So we should probably, like stay friendly and cordial with him.
Yeah.
Because it only serves to benefit us.
That's all I had. Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
Angela, I got two more questions for you. You talked about describing the political landscape around you and how that's an important role. I find it the same thing here. Here in Pennsylvania, we use the example of Mike Heiss, where he, before he was ever even made the Mises Caucus, he went into his own county, or I think it was his city hall or town hall meeting. There was a very democratic area, wanted to legalize record or decriminalize marijuana. So he brought in some sample legislation, brought in the Democratic Party's platform, and then ended up getting it passed unanimously. Do you have any examples of like that? How reading the landscape of an area is able, to get some successes early on, and I think maybe solidifying affiliates the validity of this thing. I
think Decrim Denver was probably a good example of that. In LA County, they beat us to the punch. We were going to go push to decriminalize prostitution, and the district attorney is now already talking about doing it. So now we're trying to pivot so that we can do something else that he'll support before he does it, right out from under us. So yeah, what else? What's another one? It's
the whole idea of Scott and Horton's, attack the left from the left and the right from the right. I think it's a phenomenal tactic to grow affiliates and really solidify new members that, hey, we can actually make a difference here.
Yeah, like you don't go in screaming in LA County for Second Amendment and like realistically think that people are gonna back you. Like, do you want to advocate for it? Yes, but do you want to like you should be realistic about that. There's probably no city council member who's going to support anything that I say. So I would rather build up political capital with them on things that I know they're going to back before I try to push something more controversial.
I got a couple more hands up, but Eric Hagan, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for your all your great information, Angela. I'm a relative newbie here, but one thing I'm thinking about is in areas where the Democrats and Republicans are relatively evenly matched, would it be a valid strategy to, try to get the party big enough where, it's not going to be realistic to actually win the election, but it might be realistic that we could be the tiebreaker between the other two and kind of influence one or the other in our direction in some, on particular key issues? Would something like that work in those evenly matched areas?
Yeah, I mean, you can force them to work for your vote. And there was, I can't remember what state it was, but there was a state in 2018 where Democrats sent out a mailer on behalf of the Libertarian candidate because they were trying to split the Republican vote. So there are all kinds of interesting things that happen when it gets really close. And everybody threw a screaming fit in Alabama over that one controversial senator as well. I can't remember, you know, he was accused of dating girls who were underage, but I don't think they were underage. I think they were like 18 and 19. And then
Yeah, the judge, right? Roy, was it Roy Moore? Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Libertarian candidate got a lot of attention because they were running him as write-in, I think, and everybody was flipping out saying, don't vote for him, you're gonna hand it over to the Democrats. So it really did elevate us while calling out their like hypocrisy.
Just want to ask real fast, Angela, how much time do you have? I know we're getting up here on an hour. I didn't know how much time you gave us.
I'm good for another 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay. Get one more real quick question. What have you seen as the biggest pitfalls or mistakes that you can make in growing an affiliate?
I think not being organized and trying to run before you can crawl. I think people don't understand what resources they have. They try to put together a big project and they fail spectacularly. And not only does their project fail, they get really discouraged, and so do other people, and then they quit. So yeah, I think that just like not being properly organized or having like a stated purpose is like pretty harmful.
Okay. Mike Heiss, you want to go ahead with what you're saying?
Oh, I was going to jump back a little bit to answering how to help grow. Angela had mentioned that like you basically get dumped with a bunch of data. And unfortunately, the data is usually restricted to like whatever is given when somebody registers as a libertarian. So like it's like name and address. So not only do you get dumped with a whole bunch of data, but you get dumped with the data that you have limited usage for. Like, so one thing that I would recommend is if you don't have people, because two things that would be a good start is you can pay. I think Joseph Van Wagner had done this, and if you get a committed effort to it, it could really work. But pay $50 and get a month of eCanvasser and put all of that data in there, and you could do a door knocking campaign for registered libertarians. And they might even give you people who are members of national but not state members as well when you form up a county, and do a door knocking campaign to recruit people just with that data. Or if you don't have enough people to do that, the next step that I would recommend is basically enhancing that data suite. So finding a data firm, and I've used Aristotle, but finding a data firm and saying, hey, how much would it cost if we gave you this list of registered libertarians and national members in my area? How much would it cost for you to append the data and get as many phone numbers and emails for us? And that might be expensive. That might be $1,500 or something like that, depending on how many people you got. But at the same time, once you have that, it is so much easier and cheaper to do email and text campaigns than it is to do anything else that you can only do with an address.
Very good. Eric Hagan, is your hand up again, or did I not put you down? I guess not there.
No, that's just left over. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Kareem, you want to go ahead? We'll probably have to wrap this up pretty soon.
I'll make this super, super fast. So I have no knowledge in California. I've been there once when I was real little. So I know what Newsom's done to the state. So real quickly, I saw two candidates that look good. First, obviously, I saw Caitlyn Jenner. She was too authoritarian for me. And then I saw Hewitt and I saw Wildstar. I actually talked to Wildstar. Even though he's a Republican, I really do like what he's doing there. But I kind of wanted your thoughts on that because I saw, Hewitt, I saw Wildstar and different things that you were posting. So if I could kind of get your thoughts on where, I guess where you'd like to see California go after you get rid of this dictator.
Yeah, I really like Nick's platform mostly. I think he's a libertarian, and he was disillusioned and upset at the lack of support that he got from the state party in 2018. And one of the reasons is because the state party endorsed 2 candidates in 2018, which is a bad move. So I don't recommend any affiliate do that. Endorsing 2 candidates for the same position sucks. We also, let's see. So here's something about setting realistic goals, right? Nick is a great guy. He's also a professional activist. Jeff Hewitt is he's on the Riverside County Board of Supervisors with a long political career. He was also the mayor of Cali Mesa, a small city in Riverside Council, and he was on the city council before he was the mayor. So who do you think has more political capital and clout? It's Jeff Hewitt. Nick is upset because Jeff Hewitt is getting a lot of support and he did not. It's good to be realistic about your chances of winning. And when you're just a professional activist and you have like a YouTube show and that sort of thing, and you don't have a budget, it is difficult to win a statewide election with millions of people. So I'm probably going to be supporting Jeff Hewitt. At least I've stated I'm going to be. I think Nick is a great guy. I think that it would have been better for him to run for something like city council and try to build that up. You know, and he kind of rage quit the party because he thought that he didn't get enough support in 2018. But the reality is that we ran a lot of candidates in 2018 and none of them got the support that they should have, because the state party is not well equipped to support candidates. And it's unfortunate, but this is the reality in most state parties. Like, we're just not equipped to do it. Apollo Pazell's the one that got Marshall Burt elected. I'm not like, sorry, I can't praise LP Wyoming for that win. You know, I don't think that was them. So that's something we should probably kind of reflect on as far as candidate support goes.
Very good. Adam G, this had to be the last one.
Thank you. I was just back to the digital. We're going to be starting up with MailChimp to do some email marketing. What do you guys use for email marketing, or can you recommend something better?
Yeah, I use MailChimp. I like MailChimp. A lot of CRM programs have email integrated into them. I know Nation Builder does. I think MailChimp is a great thing to use. It almost gives you sort of like a mini CRM because you can see all of the data analytics. I recommend that you have someone who's decent with graphic design, or you could just, Google some copywriting stuff, because the way that you can put things together, you can take advantage of a lot of really cool stuff. So I like it.
Thank you very much.
For anybody that may not be familiar with MailChimp, it's absolutely worth it to get one, even if it's not what you stick with, because it's one of the only ones out there that has a free tier. And I think you can get up to like 1,000 contacts or something in it on that free tier. So that's a good little bit right there. So even if you end up using, because like we at the National Mises Caucus, we use Drip, and soon we're going to be moving on from that to another integration into a CRM. But we used MailChimp for a while at the beginning, because that's the only solid email marketing device out there with a good free tier. So absolutely get it one way or the other.
And that was exactly what we drawn us to that in the beginning, was that free tier, those free tools to get the ball rolling. And then once we figured out what we needed more, great.
Yeah, once you got 1,000 people, you should be able to, and if they're committed, they're members, like okay percentage of them, then you can start selling them. You can make like a local party shop, and start selling to them and start fundraising.
Thanks, Mike.
Right on. Well, I think that's probably about all the time we got here. Angela, thank you very much for joining us. That was wonderfully informative, and hopefully we can continue to grow here in Pennsylvania like we have been in the past year, and across the country. But if you got any last things you want to say, go ahead now. But other than that, I think we're about finished up.
Well, thank you everyone for your time. I would love to check back in with you in a few months to see how everything's going and to answer more questions. And yeah, I'll keep working with you guys. And I hope to make it out to Pennsylvania for your state convention next year.
All right. Thank you, Angela. And thank you everybody for coming. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks guys.
Bye. Taxation is theft.